Mika Zibanejad has a night to forget as the Rangers lose 6-5 to Utah in overtime. We break down the overtime winner, and we call out the Rangers for losing their focus for nearly all of Utah's goals.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1159 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. So I want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you will get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And that song you heard in the intro is Leave the Lights On from our good friends in Passafire. You can check those guys out anywhere you get your music. So, tough night for the Rangers. If I'm being honest here, it's one of those games where you kind of feel a little bit fortunate at the end of the night to at least get a point out of this whole thing. You know, on one hand, the Rangers were able to battle back. It was a game that they never once led, so it's not like they blew a lead or anything like that, or collapsed in the third period. They actually rallied from behind in the third period to set the game into overtime, where they ultimately lost. And, they were twice down by 2 goals in this game, twice down by 1 goal in this game, or even 3 times. They were chasing this game, is the way that Peter Laviolette put it after the game was over, and that's pretty accurate. But yeah, Utah, like I said, I feel like they deserve to win this. Not sure the Rangers even deserved 1 point. They got the 1 point. You'll take it and move on. It is 3 out of 4 points to start a season, which obviously there's worse beginnings to a new hockey season than that. But when you look at the fact that the Rangers had a lot of miscues on a lot of Utah's goals, and also the fact that the Rangers got, no exaggeration, one of the biggest gifts that you will ever get in a hockey game. It will be one of the biggest, luckiest goals of the season. That goal that was scored by K'Andre Miller, where he was dumping the puck and it hit off the corner boards there and just veered to the right and went into the net. The goalie, Ingram, had gone behind the net to play the puck. Obviously was not able to do so. So the Rangers got a lucky break there. But yeah, like I said, I think overall, you look at this one, probably lucky to get the 1 point, but there are some positives to take out of it, including the fact that they battled back from being down multiple times in this game. And that is one of those reminders that no matter, how bad the Rangers might look at a certain point in a game, or not that they were terrible in this game. There will be worse games in this. There will certainly be better games in this. But if they're down in a game, they can come back. And we at least saw that a couple of times in this game. So that's nice. But Mika Zibanejad, he had a rough night. He's catching some flack from Ranger fans on Twitter and social media and whatnot. And you can kind of see why. To begin with, through the first 2 games here, he does not have any points, which, okay, it's not an ideal start to the season. It's not the worst thing ever. But when you look at the fact that the Rangers have scored 11 goals in these first 2 games, and your top-line center does not have a hand in any of them, I mean, that does make your eyebrows go up a little bit. And it is just 2 games, and, the points will eventually get there for Mika Zibanejad. But you look at this game, he was a -4, again, on a night where the Rangers scored 5 goals. He only mustered up 1 shot on goal, did Mika Zibanejad. And when you look at these first 2 games, you kind of combine them. You look at the 6 periods as a whole, or I suppose 7 periods if we're counting the overtime that occurred last night. But if you look at, the big picture here, the full body of work thus far, and you take a look at the 9 forwards that are playing in the Ranger top 9, I think it's pretty fair to say that Mika Zibanejad is off to the worst start of any of those 9 players. And man, did he have an overtime to forget in this game. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know how else to say it. I've been a Mika Zibanejad fan for a long time. I'll continue to be one. I still think he's massively important to this team. He does so many different things as the top line center, all the special teams work, and, obviously centering that top line there. But you look at what happened in overtime, and a lot of people are going to fixate on the very end of overtime, the goal by Clayton Keller there, and we'll get to that in just a second. But honestly, Mika's problems in overtime began before that even happened. It actually began in the offensive zone. Rangers have the puck, and we know how important puck possession is when it comes to 3-on-3 overtime. It basically feels like you're watching a different sport, and there are situations where you'll actually give up the offensive zone if it means that you get to hang on to the puck. And we've seen, plenty of players do that. That's, a strategy that teams go to when it comes to overtime. But basically, Rangers have the puck in the offensive zone. You've got Kreider. He's kind of circling with the puck a little bit. He's got a defender bearing down on him. There's some contact there. And Kreider sees that Mika's open, so let me get rid of the puck. Let me get it to my teammate that doesn't have as much pressure on him as I do. And that's what Kreider does. Kind of one-hands the puck over to Mika Zibanejad. Mika picks up the puck, moving away from the Utah net. And he's kind of near the boards. He's going up the boards on the right side. And I'm thinking at this point that what Mika's going to do is what we just talked about there. He's going to bring the puck out of the offensive zone. It's not necessarily the most ideal play ever, but it doesn't hurt anything either because, like I said, there's such a premium on possession when it comes to 3-on-3 overtime that you will happily give up the offensive zone if it means that your team gets to keep control of the puck. And I thought that's what he was going to do. He's skating up along the boards on the right side there, kind of near the benches. But instead of leaving the zone, he just kind of half-heartedly backhands the puck along the boards. I mean, it kind of just like a no-look dump-in kind of a thing. There's really no reason to ever dump the puck when it comes to 3-on-3 overtime for the reason I just talked about. You're going to give possession back to the opposing team far more likely than not. And I just, you watch the play and you're just not sure what he's going to do because, I mean, I guess he was trying to play the puck behind the net and maybe he was going to go off for a change. I don't know. Only Mika Zibanejad can answer this question. But in trying to dump the puck, the half-hearted backhand that he did along the boards there, it's picked up by Utah. Now Utah's got possession of the puck, and they're zipping through the neutral zone into the Rangers zone. Now Mika at least does get back on defense, and the Rangers have decent positioning. It is always a little bit chaotic. The 3-on-3, nature of overtime basically just welcomes that. But it didn't get much better there for Mika Zibanejad after that because now the puck goes behind the Ranger net, and it's a 2-on-2 battle for the puck along the boards. You've got Mika and Miller were in there for the Rangers, and there's two players on Utah trying to get the puck as well. I call it a battle. I don't really know that I can call it a battle. Miller was trying to get the puck. He was, but Mika just kind of drifts over there. His legs aren't moving at all, and just kind of does the bare basic minimum as far as trying to win this board battle. Like, it's one thing if this happens like in the first period. This is overtime. There's only 3 skaters on the ice per team, and you need to get this puck. If you don't win this board battle, if you don't win this battle for the puck, your team might not touch the puck again. Because, again, that's just the nature of 3-on-3 overtime. But he just doesn't really stick his nose in there, and you've got Utah coming away with the puck. Keller, more specifically, he's the one that comes away with it. By now, Mika goes back in front, and Keller's going around the other side of the net. And you're thinking he might be looking to pass. Obviously, that's what Mika Zibanejad was thinking too, because he doesn't challenge Keller. Again, Keller's coming from behind the net on the other side there, and Mika's there. He's in position. He can get in his face, try to disrupt the play at least a little bit. But Mika, for some reason, drifts away from Keller and is trying to defend a pass to the defenseman that was on the ice, and Lafreniere had this guy covered, and even if he didn't, it doesn't really matter that much. This guy's back at the top of the zone, right near the blue line. He's not in like prime real estate to score. Mika Zibanejad never challenged this guy, never challenged Keller, never tried to obstruct him from getting to the net. Keller basically had the red carpet, went right through it, or right down it, I guess, and scores from the doorstep there. And there was some confusion as far as whether the puck actually went in on that play or not, but as it turns out, it did. And I don't know, just not a good play, but a pretty rough shift for Mika Zibanejad. You can put this up there. It's probably on the Mount Rushmore of like bad shifts that he's ever had as a member of the New York Rangers. And I don't want to crush him because like it is just one game, and Mika, there will be better days ahead. I think we know that. And there were other Rangers on this in this game that clearly made some mistakes as well. But this was rough. One other thing I'll say about Mika Zibanejad, we did see in practice, getting toward the home stretch of the preseason, Mika had a maintenance day. They actually had Brett Berard centering the Kreider and Smith line, and Mika, sat out that day. My assumption has been that was what it was. It was a maintenance day. It's a Veterans Day, and okay, we'll give him a break here. If it turns out that Mika Zibanejad is dealing with some kind of an injury and playing through something that's serious or semi-serious, then all the criticism that I just gave to him is null and void, and I'll go ahead and walk that back. But I just wanted to go ahead and explain that right here, right now. But as far as I can tell, he's healthy, and this just was not good enough. And there's going to be some people, and I'll say this too, in his slight defense, very slight defense, he is known as something of a slow starter. Well, you know what? It's time for a fast start. They pay you $8.5 million per season, and they're doing it for 82 games. They're not doing it for the final 60 games. They're not doing it for the final 65 games. Let's hit the ground running, and let's play like a top-line center, because I just don't think that Mika Zibanejad did that in this game. And he had a rough night in general. He had a different goal that Utah scored where he got the puck stolen from him. just not good enough, and an especially rough final shift on the overtime period. So, yeah, got to call out Mika a little bit for that. He was also a -4 in this game, but he was not alone. There were a lot of other mistakes made by the Rangers in this game that led to some goals for Utah, and we're going to talk about that, as well as just a brutal officiating night from Wes McCauley. Surprise, surprise. We'll get to all that good stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Hims. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for any of those uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in a discreet package for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. HIMS.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan. All right, we just want to take a minute to thank the everydayers. Big shout out to you guys, as always, for hanging out with us and going through the roller coaster that is New York Ranger hockey every single season. It means the world that you guys do that. And for the everydayers, definitely stick around. In our next episode, going to be breaking down everything that happens between the Rangers and the Red Wings on Monday night. Rangers and Red Wings are going to have a little bit of an early season back-to-back home and away kind of a deal here. They play each other on Monday and also on Thursday. So round one, we'll see what happens there, and we'll break it down in the next episode of Locked On New York Rangers. But to keep the focus on this game and just some takeaways from it, the Rangers just made too many mistakes to really deserve to win this game. I was going to say they made too many mistakes to win the game, period, but they were in overtime. They at least rallied, from being down in this game, and just a crazy game. This game basically went cuckoo in the second period. Just goals left and right, all kinds of fighting breaking out, and everything that can basically happen in a hockey game happened here. But I do want to call out the Rangers for some of the mistakes that were made on just about every goal that Utah scored. And we're going to go one at a time here. We already talked about the overtime winner. We don't need to rehash that. But the first goal of the game scored by Hayton. You had Panarin turning the puck over in the offensive zone. Now, Panarin, to his credit, continued to fight for the puck. He almost got it back. He chased the guy through the neutral zone, but it still led to Utah obviously getting possession. Utah goes in on the rush, and Hayton receives a pass in deep. He's all alone on the doorstep. No Ranger anywhere near him. I have no idea for the life of me what Jacob Trouba was thinking here or where he was going. He is working with a new defense partner, Braden Schneider. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that pairing after the game against Pittsburgh, because I thought they did a heck of a job that night. You got Schneider, playing on the other side of the ice, which he usually does not do. Of course, Schneider scored a big goal in this game as well. But be that as it may, a shaky moment here. Schneider's on the left side. He's doing what he's got to do defending the play, and Trouba, for some reason, just drifts to Schneider's side of the ice. And again, Hayton is all by himself, and he scores a tip-in goal. Then you've got the second goal by McBain. This gave Utah a 2-1 lead. Mancini, I think a little bit of a miscue here. He kind of got caught chasing the puck. We'll give him a little bit of a break because he is a rookie. It's his second NHL game, but he basically chased his guy all the way to the top of the Rangers zone almost. And so that kind of left the Rangers a little bit vulnerable in deep. You got a pass in deep, and then there's basically just a scramble on the doorstep. It was a little bit of a follow the bouncing puck kind of a play here, but Utah is eventually able to stuff it home. And I don't know, watching this play back again here today, this morning, it just kind of felt like, Utah wanted the puck a little bit more. They wanted to make the play here a little bit more than the Rangers do. So I think collectively, and you got to give credit. Look, when I'm calling out the Rangers for the mistakes here, I'm not taking anything away from Utah. They look like a vastly improved team. They've scored I think they said 16 goals in their first 3 games, and they are 3-0. So keep an eye on Utah. We talk every year. There's always a couple teams that surprise some people. Maybe Utah is one of those teams. They looked explosive and dangerous in this game, but it doesn't mean that the Rangers didn't also make some mistakes. And that one, nothing too egregious on this second goal here, but one of those just doesn't sit quite right with you as a Ranger fan. Of course, the Rangers tied at 2. Panarin scores the first 2 goals of the game. And then Utah goes back on top for the third time in this contest. Keller makes it 3-2. And just a bad play by K'Andre Miller. Him and Adam Fox both went for the puck in the corner. And again, new defense pairing, 2 guys getting used to playing with each other. They've killed penalties together pretty regularly in the past, but they've never had like a lot of run together when it comes to 5v5 play. So Miller's got the puck at this point. He's behind the Ranger net, and he's going to go behind the back and basically leave it for Adam Fox. But unfortunately, Kerfoot seemed to really anticipate this, and he picks up the loose puck after Miller, left it for Fox. Comes in front, draws the attention of the Rangers, and a really nice pass from Kerfoot over to Keller. Fox went down to try to block it, was not able to do so, and Keller scores from the doorstep. So that made it 3-2. And then we've got the goal by Stenlund that made it 4-2. And this one, I got to put this whole thing on basically Igor Shesterkin. The shot comes from a pretty sharp angle from the right circle, and it basically just went right through him. I definitely heard it hit the post, but I'm pretty sure it already ricocheted off Igor at that point. So it's not one of those where it's like, oh, that was a perfect shot and just an excellent snipe there, and there's nothing he could do. No, this one's on Igor Shesterkin. He's got to come away with the save here. And this is the one that I alluded to in the Mika Zibanejad section of today's episode. Mika had the puck in the neutral zone, and they just took it right away from him like it was nothing. And that led to the goal as well. But I got to put this one on Igor. He's got to make a save in this situation. And then finally, the Gunther goal. This made it 5-3 in favor of Utah. Now, Utah, they were on a lengthy power play here. They had a 5-on-3 for a while. The Rangers were able to kill off that portion of it. But once it went to 5-on-4, that's when Utah scored. Trouba, again, it's not as bad as the first one, but he's chasing the puck into the corner, and he's chasing, his opponent into the corner. And I just don't think there's any reason to do that. The literal corner, when I say the corner, I'm not talking about like the general vicinity over there. I'm talking about literally the corner of the rink. And he's over there. He chases his guy, leaves the front of the net open. Fox, I don't think, had great positioning here either. Cooley tried to pick them up, but that's a difficult situation for him to be in. Couple quick passes by Utah, but Trouba basically took himself completely out of the play to defend a guy where there's basically no chance that he can score from that area on the ice. So didn't think that was good either. And again, I mean, you got to credit Utah. They were opportunistic. I thought, Sam and Joe were talking about what a good skating team that they were. And I think that definitely showed up in this game as well. And, they've added some veterans to a young core. It's an interesting team. And you got to give them credit for being opportunistic. But the Rangers, they did not play well when it comes to defending in this game. And I think when you give up 6 goals, that tends to be the case. And I think that was the case in this one as well. I talked about, obviously the mistakes that the Rangers made. We also got to talk about the fact that when it came to the officiating, this didn't go in their favor either. Now, I am not going to put this on the refs because, like I said, the Rangers just did not play well enough in this game, specifically defensively, to deserve to win it and deserve to come away with 2 points, even though they came kind of close to doing that anyway. But, Wes McCauley. And, we what, before I continue, let's just take a minute here to just mentally prepare ourselves for this, because it's always something with this guy. Every single game that Wes McCauley officiates, he's got to put his stamp on it. He's got to let you know this was a Wes McCauley game. I couldn't tell you for the life of me who the other official was in this game. I don't know. Bottom line, the best referee in the NHL is probably a guy that we barely know about, that we barely hear about, that we barely even recognize his name. And that's the case in every sport. The best referees are the guys that you hear the least about. And it's always something with Wes McCauley, the Angel Hernandez of the NHL. So to begin with, before the game, there was a nice moment with Wes McCauley and Sam Rosen. He was kind of pointing up to Sam Rosen before the opening faceoff. As we all know, this will be Sam's final season as the play-by-play guy for the New York Rangers. Just a phenomenal career, a wonderful guy, in the office and away from the office by all accounts. Nobody has a single bad word to say about Sam Rosen. And that was cool that Wes McCauley, acknowledged him before the game, and they got the first puck for Sam Rosen as well once it was, out of play, once the play had stopped. With that said, Victor Mancini scores what would have been his first career goal. Shoots from the point, gets through everybody, a little bit of a screen in front, and goes into the net. McCauley is immediately waving it off because, again, he has to put his stamp on every little thing that he does, every game that he calls. We got to know that Wes McCauley is calling this game. Matt Rempe is in the crease. And I guess, there's some people claiming that by the letter of the law, this was the correct call. If that is the case, then that rule needs to be changed, because there was almost no contact between Rempe and Ingram on this play. And whatever contact there was, 100% initiated by Ingram. Ingram was a mile up in his crease, out of the net. When I say contact, I I don't even know how to explain it. Like, for people watching on YouTube, this was the contact, basically. Watch my microphone here. That was the contact. That was the amount of contact that was made. So that was extremely frustrating to see that goal get overturned. The Rangers challenged it, and it didn't get overturned, which meant that that they were then shorthanded. They were able, if I'm remembering correctly, they were able to kill off that Utah power play. But this is just ridiculous. I mean, if that is technically the correct rule, then that's a rule that must change. And you can't tell me, because Matt Rempe is being targeted by refs. We saw it last year down the stretch and certainly in the playoffs as well. You cannot tell me if one of the NHL's Golden Boys did the exact same thing on this play that Matt Rempe did, that the refs would have immediately been waving it off and saying no goal, no goal, no goal. And as far as which Golden Boys I'm talking about, you guys can figure that out. I'm sure there's a couple of names going through your head right now. I don't need to name names right now. But yeah, ridiculous. And then even worse was the goalie interference call that he called on Will Cooley. The only thing I could think of that Will Cooley could have done here to avoid contact with a goalie who came a mile out of his crease. Literally, he was halfway, to the blue line in the Utah zone. The only thing that Will Cooley could have done to avoid contact here, I think, would have either been to learn how to fly right in the middle of the play, just sprout wings and fly above the goalie, or stop existing. I can't think of any other way, because Cooley was trying to get to a loose puck and Ingram's coming out of his crease to go get to the puck first. You've also got a Utah defender bearing down on Cooley, and there's contact made. Cooley and the defender crash into each other, but the defender's, making a hit on Cooley, and he knocks Cooley into the goalie. The goalie goes flying, and Cooley's trying to backhand the puck home. And Ingram made a heck of a save here, although it didn't really count, because as soon as Cooley touched the puck, the play was blown dead due to this being goalie interference being called on Cooley. But there was nothing he could have done on this play. I thought it was a terrible call, and I know that Peter Laviolette, for one, definitely feels the same way. I don't know what Cooley could have possibly done differently on that play, for that contact to not have happened. But it is what it is. We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to turn our attention to 3 things to watch going forward here. Again, we're in the early parts of the season. It's 2 down. It's 80 to go. Nothing that I'm going to talk about is like this enormous red flag, but it's 3 things that I see that are a little bit concerning. You don't want them to become a trend, and it's something to keep an eye on going forward. I'm going to talk about all 3 of those things in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers to close out today's episode. 3 trends in the beginning of the season here that we're seeing from the Rangers in these first 2 games that are slightly concerning. Again, it's 2 games. You can only get so worried about really anything because you've got such a long way to go, and you are just getting started at this point of the campaign. But a couple of things I want to talk about here. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. I'm not panicked about any of these things, but it's something to keep an eye on. The first one, Matt Rempe barely saw the ice in this game. I completely understand why he was in the lineup. You want to electrify that Madison Square Garden crowd. And I think early in the season, it's a good idea to get these guys a game anyway. Obviously, Brodzinski was in the lineup for the first game of the season at Pittsburgh. Rempe subbed in for him in this game. Matt Rempe was on the ice in this game for a grand total of 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And keep in mind, this is a game where the Rangers were down a forward for about half of it, because we saw in this game big scrum in the second period. Like I said, that second period was nuts. It had really a little bit of everything. But you had the Rangers looking for the game-tying goal right after they had cut it down to 4-3. Adam Edstrom went hard to the net. He was denied. But then you've got fights breaking out. You've got Carrick against Kelleling, I think is how you say it, and Edstrom against McBain. The Carrick fight was pretty wild. Edstrom landed some punches as well. I mean, Edstrom was bleeding slightly, but McBain was bleeding more. So I guess Edstrom won that one. But Edstrom and McBain were both kicked out of this game because, it was the second fight to break out. You guys will remember that crazy 5-on-5 fight at the start of the Rangers-Devils game last season. 4 players on each side got kicked out because they ruled that, I think it was Jimmy Vesey, his fight had started first. And so every other fight was, players being guilty of getting into a fight after the first one had already begun. So for that reason, in this game, Edstrom and McBain both getting misconduct. So at this point, like I said, you're looking at a situation where you're down a forward. And as far as Matt Rempe and getting such little ice time, I want to make a point now that I made in the middle of the Rangers playoff run last season, because we saw in the playoffs, Rempe was kind of in and out of the lineup for basically the entire run there. Played some games, was a scratch for some other games. But take Matt Rempe out of the equation here. Take the Rangers out of the equation. It can be any team in the NHL. It can be any player in the NHL. If you've got a player on your team who is only going to be on the ice for 3 minutes and 40 seconds, then they don't need to be in the lineup. You should be going to somebody else. And I talked in the preseason and the offseason, and I'll say it again here, and I think it bears repeating. I don't hate the idea of Matt Rempe getting some more seasoning with the Hartford Wolfpack. I know there's going to be some people that don't want to hear that. You need physicality, you need size, you need strength, you need toughness, you need somebody that can fight. I get all that. That's wonderful. But Matt Rempe can become a more complete player if he's playing, let's say, let's just say 15 minutes a night with the Hartford Wolfpack instead of, 3 or 4 minutes a night with the New York Rangers. And I realize in this game, it's a little bit different because game flow probably had something to do with it. I mean, Matt Rempe's not going to get a ton of ice time anyway with the Rangers. I think we all know that. But game flow had something to do with this. The Rangers were playing from behind for the majority of this game. You're in the second period, you're down by 2 goals. You're in the third period, you're down by a goal. You're in the third period and you're tied. Matt Rempe isn't going to be on the ice for really any of that. So I understand that. And when you look at the rest of the fourth line, it wasn't really a whole lot different. Adam Edstrom only got 152 of ice time. Now, of course, part of that is because he got kicked out of the game. So that's part of it. And Sam Carrick only got 435. So it's not like Rempe, this was like all designed to have Matt Rempe have 0 ice time. The fourth line just wasn't going to play a whole lot based on how this game just, progressed. And the Rangers were chasing goals for a lot of it. And you're not going to expect a lot of offense from that fourth line. But it is something to keep an eye on. Like I said, going forward, if Matt Rempe is going to be in the lineup and he's only going to be out there for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, then you know what? Send him down to Hartford. Let him get some more seasoning. Let him become a more complete player and call up anybody you want. You can call up Hoffman if you want to give him a chance. You can call up Berard. I think either one of them can play the fourth line, even though I think the Rangers are hoping for bigger things from both of those players, but they could play the fourth line. Berard on the fourth line doesn't sound bad at all to me. I think that would actually work. Or you can call up a veteran. I don't know Riley Nash, if he's healthy or not, but you've got like Alex Belzile down there. I think Anton Bleed, I really like him as kind of like a fourth line player for a couple of games. And again, if you're going to play Rempe, great. Let him in the lineup. Let him do his thing. But if that's going to be the norm where he's only getting 3 or 4 minutes, send him to the Wolfpack. Let him, work on his game a little bit and get somebody up here that you're going to play a little bit more often than 3 or 4 minutes. I think also the second thing here that we're going to talk about out of the 3, something to keep an eye on here. Poor starts to games. The game against the Penguins, I wouldn't really say that the Rangers got off to like a terrible start in that game, but the Penguins did get the jump on them for about the first 10 or so minutes of that contest. Igor made some of his best saves of that night in the first 10 minutes. A couple of difficult saves to be sure. Made sure that the Rangers kept the game scoreless and then held the 1-0 lead for the first 10 minutes of that game. But, you look at the start of that game against Pittsburgh, the Penguins got like 9 of the first 12 shots on goal. I think they were out shooting the Rangers at 1.9-3. So it's not like the Rangers stormed out of the starting blocks in that game. But this game against Utah was worse. And the reason it was worse is because there were too many mistakes by the Rangers. I mean, there were mistakes really all throughout the game, but specifically early in this game against Utah, there were times where the Rangers got trapped in their own zone, and there were, more specifically, some instances where the puck really should have come out of the Rangers zone, and it just didn't. They're getting the puck near the blue line, and somebody's picking, their pocket and keeping the puck deep, losing board battles, all that stuff that you really don't want to see. And Laviolette was kind of on the Rangers on the bench. He was saying, quicker, you guys need to do things quicker, and they picked it up a little bit after that. But this is 2 games in a row where the Rangers clearly did not have their A game right out of the starting blocks. And it is just 2 games. But for this one especially, it's the home opener. You want these guys out there with their heads on fire, skating their tails off and taking it to Utah and trying to overwhelm what is mostly a young team. And they just didn't do that. So that was disappointing. And again, it's 2 games. I can't call it a trend yet, but it's something that I'm definitely going to be looking for. That Monday's game against Detroit, let's hit the ground running and let's take it to these guys right out of the starting blocks. And honestly, it's a good test because Detroit, kind of like Utah, young team that's added a couple veterans here and there, but a team that, is trying to make something of itself, has gone through some difficult seasons. They had their best season in a long time last year, and obviously looking to build on that. So to me, it's kind of a similar situation playing Detroit as playing Utah right now. And also, we touched on this a little bit already. The other third trend that I'm keeping an eye on right now is a couple of quiet nights for the Kreider, Mika, and Smith line. Now, I should say, to be fair here, Chris Kreider on opening night had 2 goals. He scored at the end of a shift near the end of the first period. The Rangers were absolutely relentless. This goal made the score 3-0 in favor of the Rangers. They were absolutely swarming in the offensive zone. Riley Smith had a big hand in this goal. He had the secondary assist. I want to say Trouba maybe had the primary, but that was a really nice blue-collar goal for this line. And then, of course, Kreider scored later in that game, shorthanded on the breakaway, doing that move that he always does that nobody can stop. But, you look at everything as a whole and how is this line fared? Kreider, Mika, and Smith at 5v5. They haven't really done enough. You'd like to see your top line do a little bit more. I think especially in this game against Utah, just not enough happening when these guys were on the ice. Combined, I want to say, and I've got the box score here, so just bear with me for 1 second. I want to say they were a -7 combined. -4 for Mika, -1 for Smith, and Kreider was a -2. So, yeah, they were a -7 together. They combined for only 7 shots on goal. 4 of them went to Smith, and so you've got just 2 for Kreider and only 1 for Mika. So just not enough happening, just not looking dangerous enough. The Panarin line right now, I mean, they are the second line in name only. That line, Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere, has eclipsed the Mika line and is basically doing laps around them. They are the second line in name only. This is very clearly the best line on the Rangers and one of the best lines in the NHL. And I'll take it a step further. Right now, and again, just 2 games. I want to keep reminding everybody on that because I don't want to, create a panic here and everybody's saying the season's over just because they lost 1 game in overtime here. But right now, even the Ranger third line is clearly outshining the Mika Zibanejad line. The third line looks good. They look hungry out there. They're battling for pucks. They're dominating possession. They're dominating in terms of shots on goal when they're on the ice. We saw, Kakko, he just can't finish. That's been kind of the trend so far to start the season. He could have scored no fewer than 3 times against the Penguins. He had at least 1 really good chance in this game as well. He did finally at least get an assist, a nice play from behind the net, passing in front. It was Cooley that got a piece of it, went over to Fox. Fox tried to shoot, and it bounced off of Cooley and went into the net. So that was a goal for that line. We saw Hedl score in the opener. We saw Cooley had a goal in the opener that was disallowed off of a pass from Kakko. So these guys are buzzing, man. I really like what I'm seeing from the Ranger third line thus far. But to bring it back to the Mika line, they are being vastly outshined by the second and third Ranger line right now. And that needs to change. They need to step it up and be a little bit better going forward for sure. Just 2 games. Again, not going to panic yet, but need a little bit more from the Mika line for sure. The only other thing that I want to mention is that the Hartford Wolfpack lost their season opener in overtime last night. They lose 4-3 to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. The first goal of the season goes to Brett Berard. He led the Wolfpack in goals last season. I do think we'll see him make his NHL debut with the Rangers at some point this year. The Pack also trailed this game 3-2 with just 1:05 to go. And you've got Casey Fitzgerald tying the game. Assists go to Belzile and Offman. Both Belzile and Offman had 2 assists in this game, so that's nice to see as well, especially for Offman, because the Rangers obviously have big plans for him. Louis Domingue stopped 46 of 49 shots, so a solid night for him. Unfortunately, in the shootout, the Phantoms prevail, and they win the game 4-3. But we'll keep an eye on the Wolfpack and all the Ranger prospects going forward, and obviously very much looking forward to seeing the Rangers try to bounce back from this loss against the Detroit Red Wings on Monday night. We'll see you guys then. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to LockedOnNYRangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is LockedOnNYRangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.